So the first thing that I would love to say is that I'm a biochemist by profession. I'm a biologist by profession, meaning that I do study human physiology. However, I am not a medical doctor and I am a health enthusiast, which is the reason why we're having this session today, because I believe that there's some basics, that we all need to understand about ourselves, about our bodies, for us to be able to protect ourselves as much as possible, right? So the first wealth is, as far as I'm concerned, is health. Right now we're in a position where everybody's chasing their goals, everybody is chasing, to make a little bit extra income. I mean, I'm also doing the same thing, but the question is, are you going to be able to actually, see your goals through, or are you going to, leave them halfway through, because of health challenges? So this is the number one thing that I really believe, that it is very, very important, and the reason why I personally decided that we should have this session today is because day after day, I always see women that are looking after other women, right? Or other people. You've got people, as a woman, you wear a lot of hats. You wear, some people, they are mothers, sisters. You also have people that are, at the same time, you're a wife, maybe you're serving in the church, maybe you're a student, maybe you're an employee, like all those, categories and also hats that you wear, they require a certain level of resilience, right? And women actually have one of the highest levels of endurance. This means that, for example, if everybody gets sick in the house, a woman is most likely going to deprive herself, to say, let me just look after everybody else outside of looking after themselves. So today I want you to just think about yourself, be selfish for just this 1 hour, and one thing that I always say is that, whenever you're on a flight, they always say, put your own oxygen mask on first for you to be able to help others. And this is very important. You can't pour from an empty cup. So it's very important, for you to look after yourself, for you to look after your health. And that is what we are going to be talking about. Also, now when it comes to looking after your health, it's also important to make sure that in whichever way that you're looking after yourself, what exactly are you doing, to invest in your health? I talk about a lot of investments in this life, like especially with my circle of friends. We talk about real estate, we talk about, we talk about shares, we talk about stocks, we talk about all these financial, things that we're doing to try and protect ourselves financially, right? But how are you protecting yourself when it comes to your health? This is an aspect of ourselves that doesn't say much. I mean, your health is never going to demand a lot from you. There only comes a point, where, there's nothing that you can do. And you find that at that particular point, you are really at a point where it's now even expensive. Prevention would have been better, right? So women face a lot of health challenges, things like heart diseases, strokes, diabetes, maternal health issues as well. I mean, it is certain, elements that are specific to us as women because of the difference in our reproductive system, right? I mean, already every single month as a woman, there is so many things that happen when it comes to changes in your body. I speak to a lot of women, they'll be like, hey, you know what, the way I'm craving, certain food right now, I can see that I can feel that my cycle is changing. Already that is something that your body is going through, on a daily basis. There's changes, constant changes. So what does this mean? Are you also giving your body nutrients to look after, your cells in order to be able to sustain, the complexity of a human body, especially for women, right? So there's also sexual health. There's a lot of, issues around breast cancer, ovarian or cervical cancer. And I know that these are difficult topics to talk about because everybody has faith that it is never going to happen to them. We all do, but however, are you also protecting yourself, from, certain things like that, to ensure that you don't find yourself wanting, or you don't find yourself in that particular aspect, and these are some of the ailments whereby it's not just nutritional based, it can also be genetic, right? If there's certain ailments that happen, or that occur regularly in your family, I mean, you can already look to say, at my paternal side, this is what people suffer the most from. My eternal side, this is what people suffer the most as well. So from that, you're already in a position where you can determine and say to yourself, these are the risks that I can identify that I need to protect myself from already from the onset, right? There's urinary tract infections. A lot of women feel itchy all the time. and you think, okay, maybe it's the shaving, or maybe sometimes it actually just shows that you've got urinary tract infections, right? And you're constantly on antibiotics, on and off, changing cycles of antibiotics, but then this is just not going away. It goes away temporarily, right? Already that means that this is an issue that requires to be addressed, right? So we also have issues with osteoporosis. This is whereby you're running out of the lubricating fluids in between your joints also start depleting. In other words, they start becoming thinner, right? And then you also have gynecology issues, like cystic lesions or fibroids, pregnancy issues. Infertility is something that we need to talk about. It's not I know it's also a very difficult topic to talk about, but then however, it's a reality where we are right now, especially in young women nowadays. It used to be, years ago, it used to be something that people think of to say, okay, no, she's now old, you can expect infertility to also start playing a role in that. However, now we have young women and young ladies that go into puberty way earlier than it used to be. So that means your body is maturing faster right now because of the environment that we're in, because of the food that we eat, because of what we are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. This is why you find that years ago, a average woman would start her menstrual cycle around the age of 19, 20, 21, even for some women. Nowadays we've got 9-year-olds that are actually starting their menstrual cycle, if not even earlier, right? So this shows you how mature our bodies are actually, the rate at which our bodies are actually maturing. So as a woman, you need to love yourself and pay attention to the things that are happening in your body for you to be able to protect yourself, for you to be able to look after yourself, so that you can also look after others. There's also a lot of autoimmune diseases. There's depression and anxiety. These are things that we have to talk about because it's also real. These are things that are happening, but the good aspect of it is that there is something that we can be able to do about this. There's something that you can be able to do about this as well. So one of the signs that show you that one of the biggest issues that women suffer from is hormonal imbalance, right? And I know that a lot of people think that if you have hormonal imbalance, then you're going to identify it by very irregular periods alone. That is not the only sign that one can have, right? The most important thing that I would love to say, that is, how many of us go to the gynecologist at least once a year to make sure that you get there and you ask the doctor to say, I need you to take me from head to toe. How many of us actually get to look at that? So there are certain signs that you have that you can be experiencing that actually show you that it's a sign of hormonal imbalance. Things like painful periods. I'm not saying periods should be painless completely, but there's certain severe pain that you can relate to, understand that something is wrong. You might be used to it, but it doesn't make it normal, right? There's also very irregular periods, also premenstrual syndromes, as well as recurrent urinary tract infections. All of these things also result to the whole body experiencing hormonal imbalances as well. So a hormonal imbalance is one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to women, because it's like a root that brings forth a lot of different types of leaves, in other words, conditions, but yet the root cause of it is hormonal imbalance, right? So you find that, for example, I've already spoken about continuous vaginal itchiness as well. That is also another sign that one can be able to experience. There's also sexual health changes as well. That also talks about hormonal imbalances as well. So it's very important for one to understand that also these sexual health challenges can also be a result of antidepressant, anti-seizure, or certain drugs that you're taking, right? So now let's look at one of the most common symptoms of hormonal imbalance, because we've already established that it is one of the key aspects that actually leads to most of the issues that women experience on a day-to-day basis, right? There's mood swings, there's low libido, there's also headaches as well, that on and off headaches that cannot be explained, right? Night sweats. So I understand that someone that is suffering from menopause could experience night sweats, but however, we have a lot of people that are experiencing night sweats when it's actually premenopausal period, which means it's actually not supposed to be as severe, or actually even be experiencing it at that particular stage, right? Even if you are in menopause, it does not justify the fact that it should be severe in any way. It means that you can still be able to manage that situation. So there's also food cravings. right? This also, the hormones that we have, especially for us, I'm not only talking about sexual hormones, by the way, I'm also talking about hormones like insulin, that actually also contribute to the well-being of your body, right? So you find that whenever you've got hormonal imbalance as well, you're going to have a lot of food cravings, right? And even men also experience this, but however, it's very common in women, to find that, you go through certain mood swings that actually result in you eating so much food that actually is normally not the healthy choices that you actually will be craving as well. So you also find that you feel tired all the time, your energy levels are very low, or you keep gaining unexplainable weight, right? So for example, you find that, for example, you're trying to eat healthy, but you're still gaining weight. You do all these portion controls. I met someone that said to me, you know what, I even tried to starve myself to a certain extent, but I'll just lose a little bit of weight, and then after that I gain it all back. That already is a sign of hormonal imbalance, right? And the also disadvantage when it comes to weight is the fact that fat cells also produce high levels of estrogen. That means they're also contributing and promoting that hormonal imbalance as well. While that high hormonal imbalance also contributes to your body, struggling to lose and shed off that weight as well. So, what causes this hormonal imbalance is mostly what we eat or don't eat. Right? And I know that when I'm saying this, it might sound a little bit confusing, but what we eat, for example, could have high toxin levels, or it could, contribute. Especially nowadays, we've got a lot of processed foods that we eat, right? Processed food means that it is processed and packaged in such a way that it should last longer in the market, for you to be able to have a longer period of time on the shelf, for you to be able to actually get a chance to purchase it and not have to throw away a lot of it, right? So what does this mean for your body? That toxic overload, your body naturally is designed to reduce toxin levels. However, it still requires certain nutrients. In this case, if you're not eating those nutrients, for you to be able to actually counter the effect of those toxin levels. So examples, for example, too much processed foods, sugars, insecticides, pesticides also that we use around the house. And I mean, a lot of us as women, I mean, we clean a lot. If there's anything that needs to be attended to in the house, that is on you. But then most of these chemicals also are highly absorbed, when it comes to your skin, through your skin, to actually and mimic, I'm actually going to explain this later, mimic a certain hormone in your body, which actually also then results in this toxic overload in your body, right? Alcohol and caffeine, hormone-based dairy products also result in hormonal imbalance. So what is it, some of the things that we apply? For example, all of us, we use makeup, right? So the idea is the fact that if you're using skin products, makeup, hair products, perfumes, even cleaning products that we use as well, these are some of the contributors of hormonal imbalances in our bodies. So I've already spoken about toxic overload, and also conditions like pregnancy, breastfeeding, menopause, they also contribute to hormonal imbalances as well. This is after, for example, pregnancy, after the breastfeeding phase as well. And then also during menopause, there's the changes within your body. Sometimes it then results in this hormonal imbalance, right? Pharmaceutical drugs, a lot of us are taking, for example, certain contraceptives, all those, they actually also contribute to that in the long term, right? So overweight and obesity, I've already spoken about this. This is actually one of the top killer conditions that we have right now globally, that the world is having to actually deal with, because overweight and obesity actually also contributes to hormonal imbalance, which also then leads to multiple conditions. So we also have what we call non-communicable diseases, right? And conditions. And like I said, in women, the root cause of most of all of these is the hormonal imbalance. So now what actually took my attention the most was the breast cancer risk factors, right? And why did this take my attention? Because 97% of estrogen imbalance, has resulted, 97% of breast cancer, as statistics have been due to estrogen imbalance, right? So there's certain tests that one can be able to do to check your estrogen levels, to check your hormonal levels, check your insulin levels, right? 20% genetic. So this means that your nutrition actually has a higher role to play when it comes to preventing you from conditions such as breast cancer, right? While compared to the genetics, for example, personally, I come from a family where there's a risk of cancer. We've had breast cancer, we've had cervical cancer in the family multiple times, especially in the women, that already shows you that it's there, right? But I want you to understand that if 80% of this is contributed by the environment, 97% by estrogen, imbalance, it means you actually do have a certain level of control. You have a chance for you to be able to actually defend yourself against that, right? And this is mostly because fat cells are estrogen making machines, leading to estrogen imbalance and also dominance as well. So let's talk about fibroids, right? What it's in most of the right now we live in a society, for example, where a lot of women they start reproducing late, right? You start bearing children late because I will use myself as an example. I mean, you go to school, you go to high school, you go to university. After that, you start looking for a job, you want to be stable. By the time you actually start having kids, it's later within your years, right? And unfortunately, with also the way at which our bodies are actually aging faster than we numerically are, you'll find that 70 to 80% of women will get fibroids at the age of 50, or even before. I've got friends right now that are in, early 30s that are struggling with fibroids, 20-year-olds. This is something that never used to happen, but now, because of the environment that we're in, because of what it is that we're eating, it is bringing this risk towards us as well. So this means that 8 out of every 10 women will have fibroids at a certain stage. So this is something that we can't really debate about, but you just have to make sure that you are protecting yourself. So this is what we call, this is what fibroids look like, basically, right? So they can range in sizes depending on how long it has been growing, and how fast it is growing within you. So why am I showing you this? It is very important for you to go and make sure that you get a scan, get checked, and make sure that, because if you actually get, for example, a small fibroid identified, you might not need to go through the surgical route. And trust me, the surgical route is very expensive. It's also, it also has its own pros and cons, and there's a lot that also comes with that. But if you can be able to at least make sure that you visit your doctor and be able to actually get this identified, while it is still at a treatable stage where your body can also help you, when it comes to this condition, then, that would actually be better. So we've had a lot of cases actually, that we look at that actually include a lot of women that are struggling with fibroids. And obviously fibroids, due to where they are positioned in your body, it also then contributes to infertility as well. So we also have what we call ovarian cysts, right? So you see what a healthy ovary looks like and what an ovarian cyst look like. So obviously we're talking about inflammation here. Inflammation means something getting bigger than it is supposed to be. The cells are in a stressed mode. That means they can't function as normal, right? And obviously this also then leads to discomfort and pain, yellow discharge, and certain smelly discharges as well that women actually experience. All of these things are signs that you should actually also be getting yourself checked for things like ovarian cysts. So we also have what we call PCOS, right? And this is a condition that actually affects 1 in 10 women, right? And as much as it might look like a small fraction of women, it is something that is very important. PCOS means that it's now more of just one, ovarian cyst issue, right? So in this case, let's explain what it means, right? And also what the signs of PCOS could be. The symptoms still, once again, is things like irregular periods, excess facial and body hair, severe acne, small cysts in the ovaries as well. That this is after you visit the doctor for you to be checked. There's insulin resistance as well. And we all know that insulin resistance also leads to diabetes, right? So this is the reason why I said all of these non-communicable diseases are linked to how you manage your hormones, right? Anxiety and depression, infertility, weight gain, and also excessive hair loss can also be one of the detectable symptoms that one can be able to see as well. So what I have here is a normal ovary, right? So you find that within your cycle, you're going to develop a primary follicle that is going to mature, leading to your menstrual cycle that you're going to see, right? Now, with someone that has polycystic ovary system, PCOS, you'll find that they keep developing primary follicles that do not mature fully. It stops developing before it becomes a mature follicle. Therefore, they just pile up and they get stored in your ovary, right? And this then obviously then affects you in the fact this is how you find, this is the reason why I said irregular periods are one of the main signs as well for PCOS, because the follicles are not going to be maturing to the point where you can actually see that it has been released, right? So they keep starting the cycle afresh, but then it is not getting to completion. And this is one of the conditions that are very common in women and that we need to be on the lookout for. So there's natural ways as well that we can be able, if you can take a screenshot wherever you are, take a screenshot, right? So the most important thing is for you to take vitamin D supplements, right? Be able to also exercise. I'm not talking about being a gym fanatic. I'm saying at least light 20-30 minutes exercise, at least maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Take a walk. This is also going to be good also for you to distress, because when you also have high stress levels, it actually also then exaggerates the your hormone levels as well, leading to, it's a ripple effect. So it's very important for you to also exercise, because that way you're actually also burning fats, you're also using more energy, and you're keeping your body moving. In other words, you're actually trying to reverse the effects that we just spoke about, right? Omega-3 fatty acids are very important as well for hormonal levels control as well. Then we also have what we call maca root that you can be able to drink, and this is going to help you as well. We also have, for those that love tea, try and switch to things like holy basil as well. Tea that is going to be able to help you with this particular hormonal imbalance as well issue, right? So we also have fenugreek, if you can be able to find it. So I'm not really going to touch much on birth controls, because it depends with the type of birth control that you're on, depending on what exactly, how long you've been on it, and also what are the associated risks, what are the pros and cons. Everything has got pros and cons that you take into your body. So it's very important for you to be able to be mindful of what it is that you're drinking, and understand to say that, what is it that I can do to counter, the dangers of what it is that I'm using as well. So I'm not going to go into that one. However, for urinary tract infections, we've already touched a little bit on this one. This means that your body it is producing an environment where bacteria can easily grow, right? And this already means that obviously your immune system would have been, impacted, right? Because naturally your immune system is going to be able to actually fight off infections, right? So as a woman, I meet a lot of women that say, you know what, I keep getting, infections, I keep getting yeast infections, I keep getting this infection. And, those multiple, we call it urinary tract infection, and most of the time you're feeling itchy, you're feeling pain, as well. When you're urinating or during sexual activities, this is a sign of urinary tract infections, right? And unfortunately, obviously, if you take a different type of antibiotic now, and then it doesn't work for the next round of infection, that antibiotic has to be changed, right? And unfortunately, also then that it means that the infection is able to mutate to make sure that it keeps itself immune from the antibiotics that you're taking. So it's very important for us to look at what is the natural remedy that I can use to make sure that I'm protecting myself from UTIs. I'm protecting myself, because the longer you ignore it, the more it's actually affecting your reproductive system as well. The more it spreads, the more it is actually also developing in your body. So it's very important as women to make sure that we are looking after ourselves. So 1 in every 4 women is likely to have a recurrent UTI, right? And this is something that is, and it's not something that we can really, control. Sometimes, for example, you sit on a toilet seat that is not clean, or maybe perhaps, you decided to say, you know what, I want to, water with soap, or a certain detergent went in, and there's a certain things that you can't avoid. It's daily life, right? So what do you need to do? You need to make sure that your body is not producing a conducive environment for bacteria to grow, for bacteria to be able to be comfortable enough to keep multiplying in your body, right? So from that, we also have what we call pelvic inflammatory disease, PIDs, right? And this, once again, it is still due to bacteria, but in this case, in the fallopian tubes of your reproductive system, right? And it results in abdominal pain. And, a lot of people sometimes they actually see it and think it's an STD, but it is an infection as well, right? So you need to make sure that you are looking after your reproductive health, because it actually plays a very key role when it comes to the entire wellness and being of you as a woman, right? So the PID condition, normally you feel lower abdominal pain or pelvic pain, or sometimes, irregular periods or heavy vaginal discharge. It can be yellowish, sometimes even green, and also result in a very bad smell, and normally sometimes you as yourself, you can be able to smell to say this is not normal or this doesn't smell right. Right. And then that in that particular case, you definitely need to do something to help yourself. Also fatigue, painful urination, lower back pain as well. Right. So it's very important because some of these things might not be easily detectable. So you need to make sure that you're checking this out. Right. So now let's talk about early menopause or menopause itself. So most of the time there's hot flashes, vaginal dryness, and the unfortunate part that we have is that we have a lot of women right now that nowadays basically that are aging faster than they should. So this means that, for example, you can be 20, but your body and your cells are of that of a 40-year-old. This is something that you can also check even when you go to the doctor to see how fast your body cells are aging, right? And this is something that we tend to ignore, but it's very important. I hear people talking nowadays and they're like, oh, you know what? People look older. Nowadays, whereby someone that is 30, they look 40 or they look 50. How nice would it be for you to actually be 40 and you're looking 25 or 30, right? So this means that there's something that you need to look at. You need to look at your hormonal levels. You need to look at your weight. You need to look at all those conditions that actually contribute to all of that. So non-communicable diseases include diabetes, mental health, cardiovascular diseases, respiratory, malnutrition, and cancer, right? And I'm specifically very, very, when it comes to cancer and diabetes and cardiovascular health, I believe that that is one of the key, the diseases that we need to make sure that we're constantly preventing ourselves from. And the reason why, for example, I decided that we have this session is because most and foremost, a lot of women wait until something is wrong to actually attend to their health, to actually attend to themselves. And this is something that you need to make sure that if that is what you're doing, you need to stop and be able to actually prioritize your health, prioritize yourself, prioritize the way you feel, pay attention to your body as well. So the main challenges that we have as women is lack of proper nutrition and toxic overload, as well as free radical damage. So I want you to understand that, for example, as women, the number one thing, easiest thing to do, drink water, right? I'm not saying drink it all at once, but on a span of a day, at least you should have drank 2 to 2.5 liters of water, right? And one of the things that one of this doctor from Harvard said is that the human body heals itself. However, the nutrition provides the resources to accomplish that task. To visualize this, for example, for a car to move, it requires fuel. If there's no fuel, then it's not going to be able to move, despite the fact that it actually has an engine and all the moving parts that should allow it to move. Right? So your body as well, the same way, you take your car to the service to remove bad oils, to get it cleaned, your body also requires to that cleansing, that detox, to remove those high toxin levels, to help your body balance those your hormones as well, in order to accomplish the task of healing itself, right? So this is why most of the time I get a lot of questions where people say to me, why do I need supplements, right? Why do I need to supplement in any way? Why don't I just eat spinach? Why don't I just eat maybe carrots, and then I assume that I'm fine, right? So the reason why you need to supplement, especially is in the day and time that we're in right now, people are fed by a food industry that does not pay attention to health. In other words, the food industry is producing food in order to make it look good and appeal to the customer, appeal to you as a consumer, not necessarily the nutrients that it's supposed to give you. While also, for example, in the health industry, there is no time to really pay attention to the food that you consume. Right? I mean, it's not very often where somebody goes to the hospital and they ask you about your diet, they ask you to say and correct you without you actually now getting to a point where, it's at a point of no return. And at that particular point, all hell has broke loose and it's actually now a major condition that you have, right? So unfortunately, when it comes to health, it is a day-to-day choice. The choices that you make every single day contribute to how your health is going to be like tomorrow, is how your health is going to be like 5 years to come, how your joints are going to be like in the next 10 years to come. The decisions that you make now are the ones that actually lead to that. So for example, even if, for example, today you eat 3 burgers, you eat, boxes of pizza, you eat all the food that you want, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to wake up tomorrow obese, right? But it's the consistency in eating the wrong things that is going to actually lead you to find yourself in a position where your health is wanting, and you're not in the right position. So this is the reason why it is very important to supplement. Now we even have kids that are supplementing as well, family health supplementation as well, to make sure that you're not just looking after yourself, you're looking after your entire family, to make sure that you're all healthy, to make sure that you're all, receiving the nutrients that you want, and that you need as well. And this also helps, so that you're not susceptible to you're not prone to infectious diseases easily. There's certain people that you see whereby someone else has got influenza, for example, around them, but they just don't get it. They don't catch on it. But then there's someone else that if someone coughs in that direction, immediately they pick it up and they already have full-blown flu, the next day. So it means that you need to make sure that you always beef up and you boost up and you supplement for your immune system. So personally, as a biochemist, one of the things that I really value is the fact that the manufacturing process of everything, because I understand that the manufacturing process can either add or reduce value in whatever it is that you're taking into your body, right? So we spoke about toxins, right? And one of the things that I personally decided was that, when it comes to the supplements that I personally take, I decided that I was going to take Forever Living supplements for multiple reasons. And one of the reasons why I did that is the fact that the products are organic. Why is that very important? When you're taking anything in your body, for example, when you're looking at drugs and pharmaceuticals, the production process introduces the synthetic aspect of those particular drugs, which obviously then results in the side effects that people do not necessarily read when they're taking this, right? So now, when it is organic, it means that it is in its most natural state, which means that whatever nutrients that it carries that are supposed to benefit your body, you are taking them in that particular natural form, right? And one of the products that I personally take, for example, is the aloe vera gel and the berry nectar. Berry nectar is very important for women. I take aloe vera gel because it's also a little bit stronger and it's 99% compared to berry nectar. However, berry nectar, the one at the far end with the red cap, it is very crucial when it comes to women. I'm going to touch also and explain why I am saying this. So now, the reason why I'm showing these 4 drinks that are there is the fact that we spoke about free radical production, right? Free radicals come from physical stress, alcohol, UV rays, pollutants and toxins, pesticides, lack of sleep as well. A lot of people are up at night, they're on TikTok, they're watching movies or whatever, and you actually find the fact that you're sleeping less than 8 to 7 hours. You're sleeping maybe 5 or 4 hours, which means that your body is still under high levels of stress, lack of sleep, right? Poor diet, processed foods as well, high consumption of processed foods, emotional stress, or also just general radiation as well as obesity that is leading to high free radicals. So for you to understand what free radicals do, there's what we call antioxidants, right, in our body that fight free radicals, because free radicals, they attack healthy cells, right? So your healthy cell will be there minding its own business, and working, contributing to your immune system. A free radical comes, is introduced into your body, and its sole purpose is to disrupt healthy cells, right? So this is why you find that, for example, when someone goes through conditions like breast cancer, most of the time there'll be a patch that is actually darkening and it is shrinking because of the cells that are being destroyed in that particular place. That is the reason why most of the time at that stage they have to cut it out, right? So this is why I'm saying that it's very important for you to make sure that you have the antioxidants to fight the free radicals and flush them out of your body. So a visual explanation of this, for example, is an apple. If you slice an apple and you leave it exposed to the air, right, it is going to go through oxidative stress. That oxidative stress is going to result in premature aging, right, and diseases as well. Same thing. When your cells are going through oxidative stress, this is where you find that someone looks extremely old, right? And that the reason why they look way older than they're supposed to be, it is because of the oxidative stress that their body cells are going through. It's also because of, all the conditions that are happening, the hormonal imbalance, the toxin overload, as well as all of that. So a normal cell, when it is attacked by free radicals, and then you're going to see an image where it's showing cells under oxidative stress. Cells under oxidative stress cannot perform their purpose to contribute towards your immune system, right? So this is why I'm saying that, your health is a daily decision, because it's very important for you to make sure that you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your health, you're protecting yourselves as well as a woman. There's no woman that wants to look older than they are, right? And most of the time, I always see, for example, a couple that would have gotten married, for example, and they're still very young. And when you're looking at their pictures, there you can tell that, these people, the wife is younger, the husband maybe is older. But as the years go by, because of also the stress that our bodies go through during childbearing and all these other things, the woman tends to actually start looking older, right? And this is not a very, nice thing to see, but it's the reality that is there, which means you, as a woman, you need to look after yourself. Don't allow yourself or allow your body to get to that position as well. So the process of detoxification and elimination in your body is mostly based around your liver, right? Your liver is the one that removes excess toxins that are stored within your joints, your blood, tissues, muscles, fat cells, bone marrow, liver, or any other areas as well, right? So toxins can enter through your lungs. Remember, I said you can breathe in toxins through your skin for anything that you're applying on your skin or the things that your skin is exposed to. Through your gut and your intestines, this means that you've consumed it, right? So this is where most of the toxins are coming in. So most of the time the toxins also come out through your skin, your kidneys, your colon, and your lungs, right? So when you find someone coughing consistently all the time, is also a sign that you have a lot of toxins, your body is trying to fight them. Then you will end up saying that you've got a respiratory infection. And all of this can be countered by the making sure that you are cleaning your body, you are giving your body the nutrients that it requires. I meet a lot of people that have terrible acne that sometimes even has pus and all of that. It's actually also a sign that you have a lot of toxin levels, right? So obviously it doesn't help, for example, if you then decide to say, I'm going to buy the most expensive, creams and apply them on my skin. Then you wonder why it's not working for you, but it was working for somebody else. It is because you are not getting rid of the toxins inside your body. So they are trying to get out. And, in that case, it's not just going to come out through your urine and all this, it's also going to come out through your skin. And by coming out through your skin, it then damages your skin as well. So it's very important for us to talk about these things and make sure that we are looking after ourselves. So one of the supplements that I personally take is called Vitalize for Women. I started taking this about 2 years ago. And the reason why I decided to start working on myself and working on my health is because I realized that, there's a lot of things that were happening around me, and I had high stress levels. I was also, life was just lifing, as I always say, right? And at the end of the day, I looked at myself and I wasn't happy with what I was seeing. I wasn't happy with my skin. I wasn't happy with my weight. And, also regarding the fact that I'm very short at the time and I was 83 kgs. So you can only imagine. And by me being that overweight, and I knew the impact that it has, and it was also straining my knees. And I'm finding myself now wearing knee guards and all of those things. I had to make a choice. So Vitalize for Women, for example, it has high nutritional benefits that are designed specifically for women, right? It's also going to make sure that you get, for example, apple powder, cranberry. There's Schisandra berry as well that is inside. There's passion flower. All these are specifically for female hormones, right? So also it's also going to promote a healthy reproductive function. And I can personally say that, for example, ever since I started supplementing, I don't have any period pains anymore, or the things that I used to go through mostly, and I've also realized that my body is also shaping up the way it's supposed to. My skin is also clearing up completely. And I'm also someone that doesn't know how to put makeup anyway. So for me, it is very important to look after your inside and also make sure that you're looking after yourself as a woman. So now I'm going to talk about the aloe berry nectar. I drink this first thing in the morning when I wake up and the last thing before I go to bed, right? And why is this, supplement very good, right? So it contains aloe vera, right? And this is the inner leaf of the aloe vera. Most of the time I hear a lot of people saying I can get aloe vera anyway, but the question is, what type of aloe vera are you getting? There's different species of, plants that come into play. So in this case, I'm talking about aloe vera barbadensis mela. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because of every species, there's certain benefits that it has. And this particular species has got the highest health benefits to human beings, right? Scientifically tested, and that is the reason why I'm talking about it. Right, so aloe vera has natural cleansing abilities. So most of the time, for example, the moment you start drinking this, you might get a running tummy, and this is something that is normal, right? Because it's your body instantly detects that this is the aloe vera that has come in, and obviously from that it's going to flush out a lot of things. You will actually feel the difference from that, right? So it also helps, with your digestive system. It also gives you a lot of nutrients. It also helps, when it comes to promoting a friendly bacteria growth. So women also have a certain level of bacteria that is friendly, that actually protects you. This is why they say you should not wash your little girl with soap, because then if you wash with harsh things, it's actually going to remove that natural, we call it microflora, that actually protects you as well. So you need to make sure that you're using things that actually promote that microflora as well, to actually help you and protect as well your little lady, right? So from that, we also have cranberries that are there. This is a superfood that actually is packed with antioxidants. And for anyone that writes in the chat, what did I say about antioxidants? I'm going to give you a free aloe berry nectar. You can just write. I want you to. And what did I say about antioxidants? What's the benefit of antioxidants? What do they do? Why is it important? Even if it's just one correct word, you can put it in the chat, and then I'm going to make sure that you get yourself a free liter of berry nectar, right? So the antioxidants are really important. I'm not going to say why, because I've asked you in the chat. So it also has proanthocyanins as well, that provide, a good environment to prevent the urinary health challenges that we have, right? So it's going to be able to help you with your urinary health, support, and also with the vitamin C. Vitamin C is very good for your skin, right? And then it also has the apple powders that it also has in this case, that are anti-inflammatory, that have anti-inflammatory effects as well. So we spoke about, for example, the PID condition, PCOS, that result in the inflammation of your reproductive system. Therefore, the anti-inflammatory effects also are there. This is why you find that someone will say, I've been suffering from, abdominal pain, but ever since I started drinking berry nectar, I'm not feeling that anymore. It means that it has countered that inflammation that you were enduring as well. We spoke about, the effects of weight, right? And how obesity actually is a problem as well globally. So I would really encourage you, get a scale, get a tape measure, be able to check yourself and say, okay, look, if you find that your waist is above size 32, then that means you definitely need to look at that as well. You need to look at your BMI. There's free calculators that are there on the internet to see what is your your best weight that you can be able to achieve. And it's very important. Today I met a 62-year-old lady. She was leading a yoga class, and looking at her, she generally looked like she was 37, 38, definitely not 40. So when I asked her to say, how old are you? And she said, I don't look the way, my age. And she said 62. I was very surprised. And how amazing is that? And most of the time, this is why, even if you're on any social media platform and you see weight loss transformations, the person looks younger after that. It's because of the fact that you are also rejuvenating yourself when you're actually doing that weight loss journey as well. So I know a lot of people will say, accept yourself the way you are. It's normal for a woman to go through childbearing phase, and then you're bigger than normal, or you're bigger than what you used to be. I get that. It's a natural course of life. However, we need to understand that visceral fat, that lower belly fat, that stubborn fat that is there, is actually also going to contribute to certain non-communicable diseases that we don't want. So it is good to look after yourself, and you'll find yourself aging faster than you're supposed to. So it's very important to look after yourself. So there's this program called Clean 9. For example, you heard me talking about the fact that at the time when I started my journey, I was 83 kgs. and I decided that I want to lose. I used Clean 9 and I managed to actually lose up to 75. Right now, we are on another Clean 9 cycle, and my target weight is 68. Right? So it's very important for you to look after yourself. The Clean 9, if you want further information about it, you're free to reach out to the person that invited you or myself, and I will explain to you exactly how you use it. It's basically a weight loss program that is designed to help you lose weight without going through severe starvation. Because I see a lot of people going through starvation that ends up leading to things like ulcers, and high acidity levels that actually has an impact, on your body as well. So we don't want you going through that. You need to have a safe option for you to be able to manage your weight. So C9 is one of the things that you can be able to use, and it will definitely help you. I mean, this is Naomi Chege. She's from Kenya, and she decided to say that, you know what, I need to lose weight. Obviously, after childbearing, when you're pregnant, you eat everything, that you're craving, and you most of the time we don't really control what we're eating, which is fine. And then you go through breastfeeding, it pushes you to eat more because you need to produce, right? But after that, you find that a lot of women, they gain about 10 to 20 kilos, and she was at that particular point where she had gained that much. So it's very important as well to make sure that you look after that fat. This is Elizabeth Riwa. She's a medical doctor in Tanzania. She decided to go on the C9F15 weight loss journey, and this is herself. This is after 3 pregnancies, and she's managed to maintain that. So it's very important as ladies, once again, to make sure that we look after our health. So Vitalize for women, I already spoke about this as well. The fact that it has vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E. I've got one of my friends that I always laugh with, and they say, you look so young. You don't even look like someone that has, a child in university and all of that. And she always says to me, it's not, I wish I could say it's the genes, but it's the fact that, I try to exercise whenever I can. But above all else, I take my supplements. The supplements, I would rather even starve than to make sure that I miss my supplements. I would rather make sure that I have my supplements than anything. And this is because of the impact that she is seeing on her body as well. So we also have one of the most popular products, which is Multimarker, that I also take. So, as women, sometimes you find, for example, if you're struggling with sexual health, if you're struggling with anything in that particular area, Multimarker, because in one of the slides I spoke about a marker root that you can drink. So it's not something that is easily available in our environment. So you find that it is compressed. It's a powder that is compressed that you can be able to take, especially for people that are struggling with infertility or hormonal imbalances strictly, when it comes to, for example, low libido and all of those things. Then the Multimarker can be able to help you. And it can be able to actually help. It also reduces anxiety, depression, and also increases sexual desires. It also relieves you also from fatigue if you're feeling tired all the time, a healthy blood pressure, sugar levels, as well as strong bones for post menopause conditions as well. So Royal Jelly, I'm trying to think how I can easily explain this one. So Royal Jelly is one of the products a supplement that one can take. For example, if you are looking at not just hormonal imbalance, but then you want to balance your hormones, but also promote fertility as well. So it's one of the products that is consumed by what we call a queen bee, right? So everything that we take, especially as human beings, it's in the pharmaceutical industry. It is an imitation of what already exists in the environment. So you find that the royal jelly is a pure, herb that you're able to take, and it normally results in you producing more follicles, more eggs. So especially for people that are saying, I'm struggling with infertility, then this is one of the things that you will personally require. Right. So this is just someone else that was talking about, the fact that she managed to have a baby. We're not going to go into that. Arctic Sea is one of the supplements that, for example, my entire household takes because it's very important. It's got what we call the omega-3. It's got fish oils as well. We personally don't eat fish a lot in my house. So therefore, we decided to say that we're going to supplement this because you find yourself, for example, you're forgetful, your vision is sometimes impaired, or you sometimes feel like you've got brain fog. It's very important for you to look after your neural health as well, right? So Arctic Sea, think of something that is a supplement that is going to help you with your cardiovascular health, but most importantly, it's very good for your brain. right? It also reduces cholesterol levels. And also be mindful that even skinny people sometimes, for example, can have high cholesterol levels. It's not just prone to people that are obese or that are overweight, right? And when I'm saying obese, I'm talking about being above your BMI weight that you're supposed to be at, right? So this is just a testimonial on fertility. This lady, she had fibroids and now she's a mother of two, because of these supplements. I'm not going to go into that. However, I really want you to understand that when it comes to the supplements that as women we really need to look into, it is going to be the berry nectar that I told you. I personally make sure that every month I've got three, right? And then there's Vitalize for women. This one, it lasts you at least 2 months. Actic seed, that's for the whole family. Even if you've got kids that are going to school, this is really good because sometimes you find that kids, they are said to be slow, but it's just brain development that is taking too long. Therefore, Actic C actually helps them with that, right? And then the other thing that is important is the C9. And especially if you find that, for example, you are overweight, but you also have hormonal imbalance, the best place to start is by reducing your weight. Because when you're reducing your weight, you're reducing fat cells that are actually going to, that also produce estrogen, also resulting in hormonal imbalance. So it's better to start off with the weight first, and then it's also going to actually help you with all of that, right? So another thing that I really want to say is that, especially when it comes to your health, if you find that you are not taking enough greens or you don't like fruits, like myself, I'm not someone that loves fruits. So in that case, whenever I decide to take my supplements, I'm taking super greens as well. And super greens is just basically you supplementing for all the vegetables that you're not consuming, right? Because I mean, for example, when we go, especially if you're someone that is on the go, everybody nowadays is busy. You wake up, your schedule is already ahead of you. You're trying to, maybe you want to drop off the kids, maybe you are rushing off to work, you've got an early meeting, you need to meet a client, or whatever it is that you're doing. Most of the time we are not incorporating greens into all our meals or snacks, in any way. A lot of people actually only incorporate greens, as part of their dinner, right? So it's very important for you to make sure that you're supplementing that. I've got a lot of people that are actually sharing this even with their parents, to make sure that, to counter and reverse the effects of things like osteoporosis, or issues with blood regulation, sugar regulation as well. So it's very important. So the one thing that I want to talk to you about is the fact that all the supplements that I've spoken to you about, they are not drugs. They do not replace your pharmaceutical medication or prescriptions in any way. However, they also do not treat. However, they help your body reverse the effects that have already occurred. But most importantly, it's very important as a woman to love yourself. It is very important for you to love your body, like really listen to your body. Allow yourself to really be able to look good. Recently, I started taking collagen as well, and it's really been giving me amazing, amazing results, and it's only been like a month, and I'm really, really excited about that. And I am refusing to age in any way. Right? So love yourself, be able to be comfortable in your own skin, wear the things that you want to wear. If you are not comfortable in your skin, if you're not comfortable in your weight, then it means that something can still be done about it, and there's a reason why you're not feeling comfortable about it as well. Invest in your health. Make sure that you go for frequent medical checkups, at least one medical, full checkup. Go and do, get checked for, to see everything that's happening in your reproductive area, just to also make sure that you're checking to ensure that, for example, you're checking for fibroids, checking for cervical cancer, breast cancer. There's also some videos that you're able to follow for you to just feel yourself and check to make sure that there's no lumps, where there shouldn't be any lumps. And you're also taking supplements to make sure that you are preventing all these things, from happening. So one thing that I always say is that, for especially for someone that is in my field, by the time you become a patient, I promise you the costs of where you're going to end up, it is very ridiculous. And at that particular time, it's much more difficult for you to reverse, what will be happening in your body, the medical issues that will be there, the conditions that you now be experiencing. So you need to make sure that you look after your health, do frequent medical checkups, and also make sure that you are looking after yourself on a daily basis. Pay attention to yourself, supplement where you can, and make sure that you're investing in your health. So a lot of people look at their health as an expense. However, you need to understand that your health is an investment. It is not an expense in any way. The same way you need to pay rent for you to be able to live in the house that you're in, or maybe you're paying a mortgage, or maybe you are, I don't know, whatever it is that you're doing, it is very important for you to make sure that you're also looking after the body that houses you, the body that you are using each and every day, because you only have one for the entire life that you have here on earth, and that one body is enough if you're looking at it, and looking after it properly. So the same way, for example, we invest in buying, a new dress for you to go and attend a baby shower, and whatever it is, Friday chillers and all these other things that are not going to look after your health. Make sure that you're also investing in your health. Make sure that you're looking after yourself. Don't find yourself, most of the time when we meet women that are going through depression, anxiety, insecurities and self-awareness, it's because they don't like the way they look anymore. So you don't have to be in that position. You don't have to lack confidence. You don't have to endure the pains or whatever it is, discomforts that you'll be feeling. You need to look after yourself as a woman. You need to invest in your health in whatever, shape or form that you can. Start somewhere, and also don't allow this information to pass you by as well. So what I'm leaving you with is love yourself as a woman. Be able to actually understand that your health is very important. So I am going to stop the recording now.